What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan. I've been away for a few weeks. If it's your first time joining us, thank you very much. And if you're already a subscriber or seen this channel before, welcome back. It's good to see you once again. Been away for a few weeks and back into it now. A little bit more of a clearer schedule now. So looking forward to getting lots more content out for you guys, especially over the festive period where the games are going to be coming thick and fast. Been a bit of a mad time, but first, let's cover off some of the topics that we're going to be covering today on the news. Coming up on today's episode, Erik Ten Hag bans journalists from press conference ahead of the Chelsea clash and showing some professionalism he wishes his players had shown him over the last few weeks. With 50% of the squad apparently in turmoil, United may turn to an ex-manager to try and save the season. Romano claims Ratcliffe will sign all documents next week, with new CEO very close to joining. Jadon Sancho training like a beast despite being exiled by Erik Ten Hag, but is it too little, too late? Raphael Varan reveals his stance on his Manchester United future ahead of the January transfer window. And Man United among trio eyeing Milan Keeper as Newcastle rival the Red Devils for a striker in the Bundesliga. All that coming up. Yes, everyone, good to see you again. It's great to be back and looking ahead to this Chelsea game. We're just going to have a little talk and a bit of a debrief over what's been going on the last couple of weeks before we get into all those news articles. I've been away, lots has been happening, and personally I need to decompress a little bit and just have a bit of a rant and a moan, and hopefully you guys will listen and scream at your phones or screens, either in agreement or in disagreement. But it's been a bit of a turbulent few weeks for United and Erik Ten Hag, and to be honest, I feel very sorry for the guy. I do understand that the anti-Ten Haggers with some of the complaints, but by no means do I think it justifies getting rid of him, either based on the merit of what's going wrong, but or his decisions, but just the logic of getting rid of a manager in his second season, given all the obstacles he's had to overcome between takeover talk, instability at the club, court cases for multiple players, an unheard of injury crisis, leaks. It's just been an absolute madhouse, and there has not been a foundation of success and a winning machine put in place either by the ownership or by the players to help Ten Hag. And I think to get rid of a manager after giving him 400 million to spend on players he wants, to then get rid of him and bring in someone else, and then they will then be faced with the same issues Ten Hag has, which is trying to get a tune out of players you don't want, trying to develop a style with players that don't suit it. To get rid of Ten Hag now would be personally suicide, and the man has shown enough footballing nous and success, albeit in the Netherlands, but with an Ajax club that was really struggling for years. He came in and reinvented it. Remember, Alex Ferguson had a very similar first 5 years at United, trying to get rid of the drinking culture, getting rid of Paul McGrath, Norman Whiteside, putting the brakes on Brian Robson, and getting rid of that drinking culture with, heavyweight players like Paul McGrath, considered one of the best defenders in the world, Norman Whiteside, an absolute titan of a player for United, and getting rid of these players and taking a punt on guys and trying to establish a new culture of winning, a new culture of excellence within the club. And that came with some really poor seasons. I mean, he'd come second and third, then he'd finish 10th, and there was a couple of like 10th and 11th and 13th and stuff like that dotted in between, title charges. And it took him 6-7 years to get that right. At a time where there might have only been one or two clubs, vying for the top spots. We're in a league now where there's conceivably 6 or 7 clubs, all easily top 4 caliber, with 2 or 3 clubs absolutely able to win the league, and maybe 4 or 5, depending on the form of some of the more resurgent teams at the moment. So Ten Hag, to me, while he's made some poor decisions, tactical decisions, the guy's under an immense amount of pressure. And I think he needs to be given a stable club with a stable group of players he wants, free of injuries, and takeover talk put to the side, and players that want out leaving, players that need to be gone, gone and players he wants in, bought. And then give him a chance. Well, like even last year, it wasn't fair to judge him, and he completely exceeded expectations. So, I think we need to lay off Ten Hag, support the manager, back the manager, because the only thing we haven't done is not throw a manager under the bus at the behest of these players. I mean, Matic coming out now talking about how Pogba and Sancho were part of a core of ill-disciplined players who just didn't, frankly, care about maintaining any sort of standards either for themselves, for the fans, for the players of the club. You need rid of players like that. They'd have had their heads chopped off under Ferguson's time. The only reason that's allowed is just a poor ownership structure and an attitude of acceptance of mediocrity. And clubs often take on the forms of their owners, the personalities of their owners. We see it in any business. Companies, brands, logos will take on an approach to the market that is quite reflective of the CEO's attitude and mentality. It happens all the time. It just bleeds down into the lower levels of management and just kind of via osmosis. It just happens. And we have owners that are happy to just be associated with the brand and forego footballing excellence and a winning mentality to just keep turning over money and making a quick buck. And you can't say that our squad hasn't been littered with players that follow the exact same type of approach. Yeah, we've got the badge on our chest, but we're getting paid a tank load of money, and frankly, we don't really care if we win or not, as long as we keep getting paid. That's exactly what the Glazers are like, and that's what these players are like. And it's been a problem for years. And despite that, we can try and, make a cup run or, put a string of results together or go on these long runs like we did under Ollie, like we did under Ten Hag. And it looks like things might be turning a corner. But unless the foundations and the attitude and the ethos and the culture of the club is correct, that poisonous core, that poisonous thread and spine that runs through the centre of the club will always come to the fore and will always win the day. And that needs to change. And to me, that involves keeping a manager like Ten Hag. I like what Ten Hag is trying to do. Very strong with the discipline, punishing players, but also giving players a fair shake. Varan on the bench and Maguire now back in. He's trying to show that squad that if you try hard, which is pathetic at a club like United. Try hard and we'll give you a game. Everyone should be trying hard and excellence should be chosen. But he's now at the stage where players showing the right attitude are the ones that are getting a start. Maguire wanted to be sold, now he's starting. McTominay wanted to be sold, now he's starting. That shouldn't be the case, but if that's what he's got to work with, and that is what he has to work with, especially with a mounting injury crisis, I agree with it, even though I don't want to see McTominay in midfield. I get what he's trying to do. Now, I'd personally like to see Mabry there instead of McTominay. I think McTominay's been useless. But I can see what he's trying to do. He's got his hands tied behind his back, and that is an impossible club to manage right now. And I want to see Ratcliffe and the new CEO come in, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on. But listen, enough of my rant. It's good to get that off my chest. Thank you very much for listening. But listen, let's get into these articles and see what the papers have got to say today on December the 6th. So first up, we have RTE News. That is Radio Telefís Éireann for any of you non-Irish viewers. That is our local broadcaster. And they do actually have some decent journalism, excuse me. So Erik Ten Hag going full Alex Ferguson and banning people. Now, I don't think it was Ten Hag specifically, although it might have been. But the club issued a ban on a number of outlets. So United have banned journalists from a number of media outlets from Tuesday's press conference, and journalists from ESPN, Sky, MEN, otherwise known as Manchester Evening News, and The Mirror were refused entry to the media briefing at Carrington. And a statement from the club said, "We're taking action against a number of news organizations, not for publishing stories we don't like, because they're not tyrants. There is free journalistic allowance. You're allowed to say what you want to say, but for doing so without contacting us first to give us the opportunity to comment, challenge, or contextualize, which is absolutely fair enough. We believe this is an important principle to defend, and we hope it can lead to a reset in the way we work together." And I think it's important for them to establish that like if you want us to play ball, if you want to get clicks and generate revenue by printing stories about us, you better make sure you work with us in that regard. Otherwise, you're not going to be allowed to do that, and you'll suffer. And we'll continue on. For his part, Ten Hag is convinced he retains the backing of his players. Of course, he's going to say that. 10th defeat of the season. Asked if he believed he still had buy-in from his players, he goes, "Oh, yes, I'm sure." Of course, he's going to say that. But you can see, for instance, the comeback against Brentford, the Burnley game, Fulham. So every time the team is there, showed great character, great determination, resilience. So yeah, we're together. And you can see you can't play such great football, what we did lately, if there is no unity. Ten Hag downplayed Newcastle's one bad performance. They should come to us first and not go around our back printing articles, is what they're saying to the journalists. I think we have another relationship, and then they should give that to us beforehand. We have a normal and professional discussion and debate about it. Pushed on whether he's concerned about the truth behind reports of unrest. Of course, there's always, in every team, players who are less playing, who are less happy, but not different as normal. You have to wait for their chance, and that can come. But no, there are no issues. So I listen to my players, he says. I give them always opportunities to tell me. If players have a different opinion, of course I'll listen, but they haven't told me. Maybe one or two have, but it's about stuff in general. So the majority, they want to play like this. Proactive, dynamic, brave. This is what they want. To be honest, I don't think any of us have seen a proactive, dynamic, and brave display from this team yet this season. We have momentary games where we look like a team that's okay. Nothing that's going to set you on fire. But nothing that's really kind of convinced anyone that this team is playing particularly well. To be honest, all the players he's bought, they're injured or not available. Now, Anthony hasn't been playing well. Mason Mount, there is pedigree there. I didn't agree with the transfer. I still don't think we should have bought him. I think there was priorities elsewhere. I think that 60 million should have been put into whatever else was left to go into Harry Kane. I don't think Mason Mount is that good. But listen, I've been proven wrong plenty of times before about players I didn't like, and they turn around and, do very, very well. And yeah. So what else did he say? Not in my dressing room. Of course, there are lots of rumors about strategic review, but it's not that we get distracted by it. We're on a journey. We're on the route. Like how we construct a team. You see the potential, how they contribute to being a very successful Manchester United for the future. So saying all the right things, acting professionally, not calling anyone out, not doing what he might consider the players could be doing in public. And there's all this talk about dressing room leaks, and we're going to get into that now. United may turn to Jose Mourinho this month. If ever there was an opportunity to throw gasoline on top of a bonfire, it's bringing Jose Mourinho into this dumpster fire of a club. It would be insane to bring him in. For everyone else, it would be outrageously entertaining. God, I hope that doesn't happen. I'd rather have Piers Morgan in there managing the team, bringing Ronaldo back, than seeing Mourinho there. Not quite, but you know what I mean. He's lost 50% of the dressing room, apparently. And this is coming from all sorts of sources. So Kava Solikol, which, the guy from Sky Sports that talks very slowly and through his bottom teeth and takes 10 minutes to say a single sentence. He's saying that... his source and all this kind of stuff, that there's unhappiness about his style of play, and many believe he's too set in his ways. Yeah, imagine that. A manager who's stubborn and wants you to play the way he wants you to play. That's what you're paid to do, boys. Players said to feel Ten Hag is training him too hard. $250,000 a week, and we're running too much. Don't even know what they're running for. It's called fitness, because when you're on the pitch, you don't seem to do a lot of it, guys. So same complaint as when he joined. Your fitness was crap, and he ran 14K with you to show that he was there with you. And now you're complaining that you're doing too much running again. Don't really see the fruit of that on the pitch. Oh, maybe they're too tired from all the running to be doing it on match day. Anyway, during negotiations, some have reportedly informed him of their experiences at big clubs before. That sounds like Casemiro and Varan, and admitted his man management could improve. Possibly, but to be honest, what this team needs is a lot of discipline. And it's been lacking it for a long time, and I'm glad to see someone like Ten Hag in there doing what he's trying to do. They've already lost 10 games. It's drawing alarming parallels to Mourinho. Talk about Mourinho coming back. I don't see this happening. There's absolutely no way it's going to happen. But it's fun to report. It's there. I am but a messenger. I'm just telling you what's out there. But I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it's not going to happen. Romano claims Ratcliffe will sign all documents next week, with CEO also close to joining. Let me just close down this ad. Thank you. So there he is, the man himself, coming to bring the good times back. Fingers crossed. He's going to complete his takeover next week, 25% stake. And next week is going to be important for the history of United, Romano said. The expectation is for Sir Jim Ratcliffe to sign all the documents and so to complete the formal steps of the 25% minority stake. This is going to be a big moment with a new CEO, JeanClaude Blanc, ready and close to getting the job with new people in charge of the transfer market strategy. I cannot wait. I can already feel the weight, the pressure being lifted off my chest. And it'll be interesting to see if he comes in. He did amazing work. Let me just check that I've got the right microphone. Yes, I do. Just making sure. I've had problems with that before in the past. JeanClaude Blanc, if you don't already know, he took over Juventus after their fall from grace, after their scandal. And he completely turned Juventus' fortunes around and turned them into a powerhouse with an unrivaled level and period of success in Serie A, effectively just dominating Serie A for the best part of a decade. Then he went to PSG, completely transformed them. He was brought in to make sure that they were dining at the top table of Europe every year. And to be fair, they were. For as much as we like to laugh at that circus, and it is a circus, he did manage to get them to the kind of top tier of Europe. No one wanted to play them. Everyone was afraid of playing them. They waltzed to League One almost every year, and JeanClaude Blanc was a very key part of that, not only in the strategy of the club, but in its marketing, how it was developing the brand as well. The guy is a very smooth operator. He's an absolute stud, and I cannot wait to see him take the reins at United. I think he's going to be one of the most important appointments at that club. I think he's going to bring a level of professionalism, footballing know-how, and style to this club. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. So it's a huge boost for United ahead of the January transfer window. There's also talk about Todibo coming in January, a centre half we very, very badly need. But that story's been doing the rounds. But apparently Todibo is quite interested in moving in January. And of course, he plays for Nice, so I don't think it's going to be much of a problem, Ratcliffe getting that player over to United for, well, whatever amount of money he sees fit, because he owns both clubs. So it doesn't really matter. But I'm sure he'd prefer to be spending some of the Glazers' money than shortchanging himself at Nice. So he'll probably be trying to take as much. If he was 100% owner, maybe the transfer fee would be a little bit smaller. But the fact that he's 25% owner, he might dip his hands back into the pockets of the Glazers and get some of that 1.25 billion back. So let's see what happens there. The Premier League made the decision amidst reports that Ten Hag has lost half the dressing room. It's a tense situation between United, the whole environment. This is what Romano was saying. Today, what they decided to do with the private statement is to announce that some media outlets very important to England were banned. So he's just going on to add his 2 cents on this. I don't think there's much in this losing 50% of the dressing room. This could be a disgruntled player just trying to put an outrageous amount of pressure on Ten Hag. It could be McTominay, it could be Maguire, it could be Sancho, it could be Rashford. God knows who it could be. But anyway, looks like next week things are going to be finalized, and JeanClaude Blanc is the major exciting piece in that for me, if I'm being honest. Jadon Sancho training like a beast. Jog on, train like a beast somewhere else, because this is too little too late. 12 goals in 82 games, not good enough. Poor attitude at Dortmund, poor attitude at United in his first season under Oli. That's when Nemanja Matic came out and has been speaking about the poor culture and ethos of discipline at the club, with offenders Pogba and Sancho being the main perpetrators of being late and poor discipline, with 75 grand being raised in fines that they were going to use for a bit of a knees up for the players later on. To be honest, I don't think they should be kind of using that money for a knees up for a party at other players' expense. I think it should be going to charity or something like that. I think that's where it should be going. It shouldn't be going back into the champagne glasses of maybe the players that were guilty. But anyway, not up to me to decide where that money should go. The news comes after it was reported Ten Hag has lost support of half the dressing room, and a lot of the players, seeing how hard he's training, think he should be brought back. According to the Daily Mirror, Sancho is said to have maintained his fitness and his training like a beast. Well, good for you. It took this much of a shitstorm for you to act like a professional. I can't wait to see the back of this guy. I think he's of that Pogba Lingard ilk, that, big time Charlies that, have a selfish streak about them where They'll do what they want to do when they want to do it, how they want to do it. And you can't have players like that when you're trying to build a title-winning squad. There needs to be everything needs to be for the badge and for the club and for your teammates. And what you want comes last, unfortunately. But that's why you're getting paid $250,000 to be a top-level athlete. That's what comes with the territory. And if you can't do it, fuck off. The 1-0 loss against Newcastle on Saturday night ended a 3-game winning run in the league. It remains to be seen as to what the future holds for Sancho, with Juventus being linked. Who knows where he goes? Frankly, I don't care. But I never want to see him near the first team again. And I think it's fairly certain he won't be, unless Ten Hag gets fired, which I don't think that's going to happen either. So Rafael Varane's stance on United future ahead of the January transfer window. A lot of weird stuff going on with Varane at the moment. I personally don't understand playing Dalot at left back and playing Shaw as a left-sided centre half when you have Varane there. He's saying it's a tactical thing. He's clearly lying. There's no way this is a tactical thing. There is no universe in which you play Shaw at at left centre half with Maguire and then have a right-footed fullback covering for Shaw when you have a fit Rafael Varane. It's absolute bollocks that it's tactical. There's clearly been a falling out of some degree. Now, Varane says he wants to stay. I can't imagine him wanting to stay if he thinks that he doesn't want to play for Ten Hag, or he thinks there's a problem there. So it's kind of tough to understand what's true here. 30-year-old has been linked with a move away from Old Trafford, namely to Bayern Munich, who don't really have a track record of spending a lot of money on 30-year-olds with dodgy knees. They usually sell them to United in the form of Schweinsteiger and Hargreaves. But previous reports from Sky's Germany, Florian Plettenberg, Bayern are in for him. Saudi might be in for him. Personally, I think it's time to wave bye-bye to Varane. You can't rely on him. He's in for a game, out for a game. You can't build a solid backline when you've got a player that's in and out consistently. You never know when he's going to be fit. You don't know whether you're going to have to take him off in the middle of a game. And if we could get 30-40 million for him from Saudi, I would snap their hand off and just invest that in JeanClaude Todibo, if I'm being honest. His performances have dipped as well, but I'm sure a player like that would be able to play himself back into form. He is a very classy player, but his injuries are just unbearably bad, and I think it's time to wave bye-bye to Mr. Rafael Varane. It's been emotional. Shame it didn't work out. There was a few good memories there, but you just can't build a team around, you can't build a defense around that. And finally, United among a trio of clubs eyeing Milan Keeper's Newcastle rival Red Devils for a striker. So we see here on the left, I always get this guy's name wrong. Okay, let's get back from that. Thank you very much. Let me say it, Serhou Guirassy. Did I get it right? Yes, Serhou Guirassy. And there is Mike Maignan, French. I think he's the international. I think he's the starting keeper. He's taken over from Hugo Lloris and took over from Donnarumma when he left for PSG. A lot of Milan fans sorry to see Donnarumma go. Obviously, Italian number one, came through as a 17-year-old, was much loved, and has gone to PSG and hasn't really done all that well there, surprisingly. And my mate Keane, a staunch Milan fan, has been absolutely raving about this Maignan fella. But we've seen how other keepers that did very well in Italy fare when they've come to United, so it's not exactly a barometer of guaranteed success. De Gea in the mix for something at Newcastle, but he's no longer a United player, so we shall scroll on because we do not dwell in the past. So let's go. Oh, lovely Guinness there. Oh, Christmas time. Can't wait for some lovely creamy Christmas pints. So replacing De Gea has hardly gone smoothly for Manchester United, with Onana making costly mistakes while he gets his feet under the table at Old Trafford. Foot Mercato reckons the Red Devils are one of three clubs looking at Maignan, the France keeper having been superb at the San Siro, having taken over from Donnarumma, with Arsenal and Chelsea also looking at him. David Raya hasn't exactly lit it up, and to be honest, I can't understand how Ramsdale has lost his place to him. Funny move by Arteta. And Chelsea, they've just been bouncing around from keeper to keeper, from Aretha Balaga to Mendy, now to Sanchez. They haven't really had a settled goalkeeper either. So I can definitely see them being in the mix, particularly with the deep pockets that they have. Certainly the brakes have been put on that insane spending they've been doing, but maybe United do a swap. You have Onana, we take Maignan plus 10 million or something like that, 20 million, whatever it takes. Maignan is understood to be stalling on a new contract with Milan. Probably the root of all this, wants more money, and if money's the issue, he ain't staying at Milan, especially at the age he's at. this is probably going to be his one of his biggest chances or last chances to get a move to a big club when he's the right side of 30. Mind you, although keepers can play late into their 30s, keepers are in their prime between the ages kind of 27 and 33, 34 generally. So he's right in that sweet spot. So this is the time for him to make his move. He's understood to be stalling on that contract, wants more money. Bayern Munich are also in the hunt as well as a replacement for Manuel Neuer, which also makes complete sense. So United are not going to have an easy run at this guy, that's for sure. And I think there's other areas of the pitch that we need to address before we start looking at goalkeeper. But yeah, let's see. Red Devils also in for Serhou Guirassy. See, didn't need to scroll up. He scored 16 goals in 11 games. I did an episode on this guy a few weeks back that United were in for him. And it looks like there's real concrete interest in this player. Very silky player, very languid style, tall, slim frame, moves around the pitch like a panther. And you just get this with some players, they're kind of like a stonefish. They're sitting there and then all of a sudden they just explode. And that happens players. I mean, Harry Kane wasn't any great shakes until he was 23. No one was really paying much attention to him. And he just blossomed into, I would say, the world's best striker. I'd rate him above Haaland. I genuinely would. He's done it far longer in far weaker teams for a far longer amount of time. And he's an absolute stud. I'm so pissed off he didn't go to United. But he's been lighting it up in the Bundesliga. 16 goals and 11 appearances. Even for a tier 2 league like Germany, you can't ignore 16 goals and 11 appearances. That is really hot shit, to be honest. So according to Football Insider, Ten Hag and Eddie Howe both keen to activate Guirassy's buyout clause, so much so that Fulham don't feel able to compete with the two Champions League giants. I don't know how much that release clause is, but it's not expensive. I think it's in the teens of millions. It's not a lot. So I don't see why Newcastle would go for him when they've got a lot of options up front. They Callum Wilson, they've got Isak, and they've got other players that can come in there as well. I don't see Guirassy starting ahead of either of those two when they're fit. So United certainly need him more than Newcastle do, and hopefully we get him. I'd love to see this guy come in, even if it's for 6 months, see how it goes. Loan with an option to buy in the summer. I think it'd be great. But Stuttgart badly needing those goals because they're not doing too well in Bundesliga, and those goals have certainly been helping them out a whole lot. So that's pretty much it for today's news. So that's it for the news today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit like, hit subscribe, and hit that notification button. You've no idea how much it helps creators like me. So if you're still watching, if you can move that thumb down to the like button, it would be massively appreciated. And of course, hit subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content from me. It's always great to get support in the early days of growing this channel. So I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. So what do we make of these news stories? What do we think Rashford should be dropped for the Chelsea game tomorrow? Would you welcome Sancho back into the fold? Do we need a player like him coming in from the right with Anthony and Pellistri not really doing a whole lot? Rashford doesn't seem to be too interested out there either. What do we make of JeanClaude Blanc coming in as the CEO? If you haven't already, do some research on the guy. He's an absolute stud. I think he's fantastic. And Mourinho. Would we have Mourinho back? Would it be like bringing back Trump into the presidency? Just, sit back and watch the absolute chaos unfold. And what do we think of Ten Hag taking the hard road on those naughty journalists and banning them from the news conference? It's great to see personally. And what do we think of the Chelsea game tomorrow? I mean, who should be playing in midfield? I mean, personally, I want to see Kobe Mainoo and maybe Sofian Amrabat, who hasn't been playing that well, but I'd like to see Mainoo and Amrabat anchoring that midfield and protecting the defence, because Chelsea are vicious on the counter-attack. They've got very talented, fast, quick players at the back, and when we've got Lindelof and Maguire as our centre halves, we're going to need all the help we can get to make sure that they're screened and we don't get too many balls over the top or in behind, because that's exactly what Chelsea are very, very good at. What's your prediction tomorrow? I personally think it's going to be 1-1. I think it's going to be two struggling teams, both looking for a win, but both also not wanting to lose. And certainly I think it's more important for United not to lose, but I hope we attack, because Chelsea are leaky, and There's goals to be had there, and sometimes the best form of defence is attack. Hasn't been working too well for us in Europe, but that's been down to individual errors rather than tactics. So hopefully we can not mess the bed defensively tomorrow and maybe get ourselves a point or even 3. But I would certainly take a point tomorrow given the way United are playing at the moment. So yeah, thoughts in the comment section below. It would be great to hear from you. As always, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Hit like, hit subscribe, enjoy the match. United v Chelsea, 8:15, and I'll see you on the next one.